It's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Matt Dean. He is the president of the Secular Humanists of the Lowcountry, which is the off-campus humanist group, which is based in Charleston, South Carolina, which is also where Herb Silverman, the candidate without a prayer, hails from, who, if you're a South Carolina group and you haven't had Herb out to speak yet at your campus, I highly recommend getting him. I think he's coming to your Darwin Day thing. Yeah, awesome. So glad to hear that for the Pastafarians. But for everybody else in the region, he would be incredibly enthusiastic to come out and speak. But today you get to hear Matt, which is just as fantastic. He's going to talk about Camp Quest, which is a program that is dear to my heart. Not just because my wife is the executive director of Camp Quest National. I've actually been volunteering at Camp Quest myself, the Ohio location, since 1999, and it is my favorite week of the year, and really enjoy it. It is a summer camp for children from non-theistic families, but I will not go on about it. I will let Matt tell you. If there are questions that it seems appropriate for me to weigh in on, maybe I will, but please join me in welcoming Matt.
The first thing I probably need to do is clarify that it would be a lot better if Herb were up here, but he's a lot funnier than I am. But I am the president of the Secular Humanists of the Lowcountry, and one of my goals as president is to facilitate the beginning of a Camp Quest location in South Carolina, and we're well underway on that. We have a location, probably. We're going to do, there will be details later, but we're going to do a weekend camp next year, and then the first full week will be the year after that. But the purpose of this talk is to fill you in a little bit more about how Camp Quest works, what it's about, and how you can help even as a student. And we'll take it with the classic, who, what, where, why, when, how. The first question being who, and I love my template because it's who, for the love of God, who. But the first question is who, and that has two parts actually: who we are, and the first Camp Quest. Let's see if I can move this. The first Camp Quest was held in 1996. It was founded by Edwin and Helen Kagan under the auspices of the Thank you. Cincinnati in northern Kentucky. The first camp was in northern Kentucky. They saw that there was a need that if kids of atheistic or free-thinking parents wanted to send their kids to summer camp, Boy Scouts and church camps were basically the only option. So the idea was to create an alternative. And the mission statement, which you can read here, is to provide children of free-thinking parents a residential summer camp dedicated to improving the human condition through all of the principles of free thought. And the mission is accomplished through activities, not through lectures, per se. The next part of who is who we serve. The first residential summer camp in the history of the United States for children of atheists, free thinkers, humanists, brights, or whatever. Notice that the kids are not being labeled here, but rather the parents, because, as August was saying, we don't want to create atheist zombies. So the aim is to serve kids of free-thinking parents. Kids from religious families are also included. There have actually been some, and they've had a good time. This is actually really annoying. Hold on. The age range is primarily 8 to 17 for campers, but is expanding in some cases. I guess every expansion of the range has been regretted, so that 8 to 17 is probably going to be the range for South Carolina. What? In the name of holy, what? So the next question is, what do you do at an atheist summer camp? And that can be covered in 3 F's, the 3 F's of Camp Quest. Fun, which is all the usual camp stuff, hiking, swimming, s'mores, campfires, ghost stories, that sort of thing. Friends, the friends that the kids make at camp tend to be the reason that they return. The idea is to build a community of kids, build a community where kids from atheistic or secular humanist families don't have to hide what their families believe. It's not controversial what their upbringing is. You know, they don't have to pretend to be something they're not at a Baptist camp, for example. And the importance of the discussions that the kids have amongst themselves is critical, because that's where a lot of the learning takes place. And then the third F is free thought. And the idea is to foster critical thinking, skepticism, rationality. The thing in the corner there is one of the activities. As I said, this is done through activities, not lectures. One of the activities is that the kids were tasked with faking a UFO photo. And so I think that's a pie plate or something, and you know, you take a picture and oh my gosh, it looks like a UFO. And also, I guess there are little presentations about famous free thinkers. There are discussions about ethics and comparative religion. There was something about invisible unicorns.
Oh, right. So, do you want? I could.
Yeah, but yeah.
It's not short.
But
I'll do my best.
Yes, okay.
All right. So. It varies by location to location. At Camp Quest, Ohio, there are 2 invisible unicorns. You can't see them, obviously. You can't touch them or taste them. They can't hurt you. But they're there. We know they're there because it's written down in a book. No, you can't see the book. You're not holy enough to see the book. But any camper who can prove that the unicorns do not exist will earn a godless $100 bill, so one printed before 1954. And the point of the exercise is to illustrate that the invisible and the non-existent look quite a lot alike. And the kids have a lot of fun jousting with whoever is facilitating that activity. So that's what the invisible unicorns are. I think Camp Quest, Minnesota has some heresy about an invisible dragon.
Do you actually have a godless 100?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
You can buy them on eBay. They're like...
Do they cost $100?
Like 105. Like, yeah, they're not, yeah. And, yeah, I have a godless $1 bill on my office wall.
There are also challenges where each cabin is given a challenge for the week, and so over the week, for example, they would have to come up with a humanist myth that would illustrate a humanist principle, and they'd be given, you know, a location and an object, and you know, things that they would need to use. It sounds an awful lot like a writing prompt, but I guess it's
the whole idea.
Yeah. So the first camp was in Ohio, originally Kentucky, actually, in 1996, but now in Ohio. And then, oops, I'm ahead of myself. And then Tennessee was added in 2002, Minnesota and Ontario in 2004. My timer is blocking half of my notes. It's really annoying. California and Michigan in 2006. Florida, California, Michigan. I'm just going to put them all up. Okay. Florida has a winter camp in 2000 had a winter camp in 2008. No, didn't work. Okay, all right, never mind. Also in the UK and Ireland, and then who knows where in the future. Well, we do know one in the future will be South Carolina. And as I said, that's 2011, 2012. And then how, which is the whole point of this talk. How can you get involved in Camp Quest? You can volunteer. Camp Quest Ohio is growing like crazy and needs more counselors. They all need counselors, especially if anybody has medical training or is, you know, a nursing student or something like that. What I have here in the notes is that Camp Quest Smokies, which is the one in Tennessee, needs men. Camp Quest Minnesota needs women staffers especially. And then, like you said, everybody else needs people. You can send a camper, younger siblings, cousins, families, friends. There are scholarships or camperships. And you can take some brochures, which I have here, and spread them around to anybody that you know that has families that might have kids who would want to go. Let's see. When? So Here's sort of the timetable for South Carolina specifically, sort of in general too. Right now, we have a website up. You can sign up to get involved, to volunteer, register that you're interested, and of course you can always give money. Next spring, at our camp or other camps, you can apply to be a counselor, and also continue to spread the word. Then in summer 2011, there will be full week sessions in all of the locations listed here, California, Minnesota, etc. And then, this says fall 2011, but I'm pretty sure it's actually summer 2011. We're going to have our weekend event in South Carolina, which I believe is going to be at Camp Long, which is near Aiken.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then summer 2012 will be our first week-long camp, which will also be at Camp Long near Aiken, which I've been told is a really, really great location. They've got everything, boats and...
If you want to see pictures of Camp Long, I went on the camp tour, and on my Facebook profile, I've got a photo tour.
And I stole some of those and put them on our website too, campquestsc.org. So why do we do this? What is the point of a summer camp for the kids of atheists, and why do we participate in it? And it's a top 5 list. 5, you get to hang out and mentor awesome kids. You get to do fun summer camp stuff like s'mores. That would be the number 1 reason. I think the order should be reversed. 3, you teach and learn about topics that you love. 2, you get to bond with fellow counselors. They call that bonding. I'm not really sure that would be how I would label it.
Let's see here. Craig and Brian were bound after that occurred to me. Yes, that's true. That's me under the water, by the way.
And number 1, you get to act silly and be popular for it, unlike ordinarily acting silly and not being popular for it. And so that's it. If you want to contact us, that's the email address, and then our website, as I said, is campquestsc.org. And I'm Matt Dean. Amy Monsky is our family czar. We have czars too. She's our family czar. She does all of our family-friendly activities, play dates, and stuff like that. And she's going to be sort of the leader in this whole Camp Quest effort. So, I'm way under time. I told you I would be. Any questions?
How many campers attend a typical Camp Quest? I'm sure it varies, but just kind of range.
Yeah, it varies.
I guess at the small end of things, I think Camp Quest Tennessee might have been the smallest, Smoky Mountains, last year, and I think they had just under 20 kids, whereas Camp Quest Ohio, we had a record year with 76 kids. And we would, you're right to be impressed. It sort of doesn't sound like a lot, but something else to keep in mind is that all of our staffers, all of our camp counselors are volunteers. And for some reason, they very willingly sign up for this abuse again and again. And actually, so I was saying that everybody needs counselors, and Matt was too. I actually think Ohio might be an exception to that, because I actually frequently have to turn people away because we have so many people applying. But I don't want you guys to not apply, because I like you. But anyway, not that you shouldn't help the South Carolina camp, but they're not at the same time, I don't think, so you can do them.
We will try to make that. So.
But anyway, we have actually in Ohio, especially, but the other camps too, we have like a 3-to-1 ratio of kids to campers, or kids to counselors, which is really good compared to what you'd see at most other camps. So that ends up meaning that the dining hall has like 100 people in it or 105 people in it when we have 76 campers at Camp Quest Ohio, and we'd have to eat in 2 shifts if we added any more kids. It's big. I think most of the camps are right around like the 40 to 50 kind of zone as far as how many kids they can do. But they are, I think without exception, they are all growing. Across the entire system in 2010, there were just around, I don't know if it's over or under, very close to 350 kids that went through the whole system. So compared to maybe 100 like 3 years ago. So it's growing really rapidly.
Have you thought about doing more than 1 week?
Yeah, the kids. The kids thought of that one a long time ago. Don't make us go home. But the trick is, the trick is the volunteer staff, because it's really hard to get 2 weeks off of work for most people. College students sometimes are a big advantage in that front. But if we had 2 weeks, it would be a much different staffing challenge than what we've got right now. And we sort of have this model that works, and we're much more interested in spreading it around geographically, which also does, it separates it in time too, because they're not all simultaneous. There's some overlap just because there's only about 8 weeks we can really work with, like the last week of June, maybe the last 2 weeks of June, July, and then the first 2 weeks of August. And if you're any time out of that zone, you can guarantee that somewhere there are going to be kids that are going to be in school. And then you're going to have fewer kids come. So with as many camps as we have, there's necessarily some overlap, but you can volunteer at the non-overlapping camps if you don't mind driving or flying or whatever. You don't get paid. We do feed you, and you do get a place to sleep, but you are responsible for getting yourself there. So that's how that works. Yes.
No, you pretty much just answered my question with that
Oh.
last statement.
Okay.
I don't mean to be down or knowledge, but when I hear about religious camps and stuff, I worry about impressionable young children getting too many of these influential ideas of sticking to one side without hearing all the different sides. So do you have any of these days where there's a certain age maybe that you shouldn't be here because there'd be too much pushing one way or the other, or that you definitely make sure that if there is a question about religion, or is that even involved? How do you do that? If a kid is well, what about this kind of thing? Would this be bad? You mean it's well, no, that's just a really different way of thinking.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So definitely the different way of thinking approach. We are not interested in programming the kids to believe in specific conclusions. We are very interested in espousing the values of free inquiry, of thinking about things critically, and if you want to call that indoctrination, then I guess do so, but it seems like a pretty hard sell to me. And evidence-based decision-making and things like that. Those are definitely values that we are, I think, making a reasoned case for to the kids. And I think that there may be occasionally, just in the interactions, well, actually, I will say the other kids are probably the most, indoctrinating force at Camp Quest. The adults frequently, and whatever, maybe the occasional exception, I think the adults frequently are very sensitive to that and will soft pedal any commentary of religion that they're offering. Some of the kids will not soft pedal that at all, and we've actually, there's at Ohio we have the rational rules for living at Camp Quest, and the first rule is to respect the diversity that you encounter. We rent from host camps. Frequently, those host camps are pretty secular in nature, like 4-H camps. But sometimes we've rented from YMCA camps in the past, and the staff will be believing Christians, and we make it clear to everybody that you need to be respectful to them. And also sometimes we rent at facilities that are so large that we're necessarily going to be there at the same time that, say, the Lutheran church camp is there. And we make it really clear that it's very important to respect the other people that are participating there. We also, and again, I can speak most authoritatively about Ohio, because that's where I've spent my time. At Ohio, at every other meal, for about 5 minutes after the meal, we do something we call world religions, where we have one of our counselors is, she's just about to finish her PhD in religious studies, and the kids, a lot of the kids are being raised in non-theistic homes, they have never really experienced prayer, or and they don't really know, my friend's going to his bar mitzvah, what does that mean? They have lots of questions about religion that they don't really get to ask most of the time, or if they do, they get biased answers, and maybe the answers that Katie, our PhD religious studies person, is giving her bias to, but I don't think they are. I think she tries to be very academic. She teaches undergrads at public institutions, so I think she's fairly careful about that, and tries to be very informative and evidence-based. So we try very hard not to indoctrinate.
Katie's great about keeping a straight face while describing some of the beliefs that are held by people in the world.
It's true. Randall?
How much does it cost to sponsor a child for a week, and then I guess in the South Carolina case, a weekend?
Is the weekend free? Or
The weekend is probably going to be free because
Okay.
that's
like a marketing.
Yeah, that's really just sort of like getting our feet wet and trying to get people interested in it. And actually, another thing about that is that parents will be welcome at that one and kids beyond the 8 to 17 age. So that won't be free. But for the week,
The price varies. If I think the base price at most camps is just below $500, which is more expensive than a church camp, but a lot cheaper than most like specialty camps, like soccer camps or whatever. And we also have like early bird discounts. So if you register before whatever, March 1st or something, we'll knock out $50. And we have a sibling discount. But yeah, you're looking at right around $400, $500. That's that. And they vary camp.
There are new camperships.
Right, and so we do actually right now. Again, at Ohio, I know for sure, and the other camps have systems too. They're all a little bit different, but we do have a fund in place that we go around and raise money for. And if you're thinking about raising money to go into the campership fund, much appreciated. We would be able to use it. But the way we do it is we have notice on our website that says, we don't want any camper to be barred from participating because of their inability to pay. Please contact us and we'll make arrangements. And we do. And usually what we do is we ask the parents, okay, we know $500 or whatever it is a lot of money, especially if you have more than one child. That boggles my mind, the families that send like 3 kids. But if you can pay $100, then we'll cover the rest. And sometimes we ask them, what would be a price that you can do. That's kind of how we do it in Ohio. And at Camp Quest West, there's a formula, which is published on the website. The camp director looked up the median income for Caucasian families in California, and was like, okay, if you're below that by this percent, then you get this percent off the price. So you send in your W-2, and they tell you how much you get off. So it's different in different places, but yeah, I am not aware. I don't want to lie, but I'm not aware of any kid not being able to go to camp because of money, or at least because of the fees. I mean, there's always transportation issues and things like that. And at Camp Quest, Ohio, this year, for the first year ever, we did have to turn kids away because we ran out of space. But I think that's the first time that we've ever had to turn kids away. And I don't know how we're doing on time. Oh, well, we still have a couple minutes. If anybody has anything else, or we can take a little break before we get to penultimate presentation of the weekend by Liz. Well, what? Yeah. Oh.
Is the goal to end up with 50 camp quests?
I don't know why you want to stop at 50. Yeah, I mean, one for every state would be fantastic. Although I don't know if that's actually how it would make sense. In a way, there's a lot stronger case to be made for one for Northern California, one for Southern California than any in North Dakota. Although, I mean, there's another case to be made for North Dakota, which is that it's beautiful and remote, and maybe you'd like to go there because it's beautiful and remote. But as far as following population centers, and then there are camps there's 2 camps in the United Kingdom already. There's a camp starting up in Ireland next year, and they, I don't know. Amanda always points this out. Amanda is the executive director of Camp Quest. That the non-North American camps are actually, they're more separate than the North American camps from the corporate brand or whatever, because things are just too different in other countries to be able to administrate them effectively. But yeah, so I hope that there's, 10,000 Camp Quests. And then I hope we go out of business because the whole idea is redundant and ridiculous. Someday. That's the whole goal of the SSA, by the way, is to put itself out of business. So, as should be the goal for the whole secular movement, I think. All right, well, enjoy your coffee or tea or the bathroom or whatever, and we'll be back here in about 4 minutes.